The hard shove almost sent the boy to his knees. His hands were tied with old rope, and the knot cut into his skin. He looked up at the man holding him, tried to find the father he knew. All he saw was a red face, shaking hands, and eyes that could not stay still. "Papa?" His father pushed him toward the wooden block in the middle of the yard. "Don't make this harder. I didn't do nothing, I know. Then don't leave me." His father looked away. The crowd had gathered before sunrise. Farmers stood beside merchants. Old women held their shawls tight. Young men leaned against fences. Nobody smiled at the boy. Nobody stepped forward. A heavy man climbed onto the platform beside him. "You all know why we're here." Nobody answered. The man grabbed Samuel's shoulder. "Debt gets paid." His father pulled a bottle from his coat. The sheriff walked over. "You've had enough," his father laughed. "Not till I'm square." The sheriff looked at Samuel. "How old?" "10. Big enough to work." Samuel stared at him. "You know me." The sheriff fixed his badge. "I know lots of people." A few men laughed. Samuel searched the crowd for one kind face. He found none. His father took another drink. "I fed him." Nobody answered. "I clothed him." Silence. "I got the right." A woman covered her mouth. An old man shook his head. The heavy man raised his arm. "Who starts the bidding?" A rich ranch owner stepped forward. "I'll give 20. Another voice came from the side. 30. People turned. A woman whispered, "Old family money." Samuel did not understand. The ranch owner spat. 40. The second bidder nodded. 50. Samuel looked at his father. "Papa, please." His father emptied the bottle. "Don't. I'll work. I know. I'll fix the fence." "I know." His father's hand shook. "I know." The heavy man smiled. 60. The ranch owner crossed his arms. 70. The old family bidder lifted one finger. 80. Samuel looked at the sheriff. "You can stop this." The sheriff looked at the ground. "I ain't here for that. You wear a badge." "I said I ain't here for that." Samuel felt his knees weaken. His mother had died 2 winters before. She used to tell him that good people always came when bad things happened. He looked around. No good people came. The ranch owner laughed. 85 ninety. The old family never smiled. Samuel heard someone crying. It took him a moment to know the sound belonged to him. His father closed his eyes. Samuel stared. "What?" "I'm sorry. You said you wouldn't leave." His father said nothing. A horse stopped outside the yard. Heads turned. A thin cowboy climbed down. His coat was covered with dust. His hat had seen better days. He tied his horse to the fence and walked into the crowd. Someone laughed. "You're late." The cowboy shrugged. "What I miss?" The heavy man pointed. "Boy for sale." The cowboy looked up at the platform. Samuel looked back. The cowboy frowned. "The boy got a name?" Nobody answered. He asked again. "The boy got a name?" Samuel swallowed. "Samuel," the cowboy nodded. "Good to meet you, Samuel." The heavy man laughed. "You buying or talking?" The cowboy looked at the ranch owner. "What's the bid?" 90. The cowboy reached into his pocket. 100. The crowd started whispering. The ranch owner frowned. 110. The cowboy nodded. 120. The old family bidder looked him over. 130. The cowboy answered before the words settled. 150. The yard went quiet. The ranch owner stepped back. "He's yours." The old family bidder stared at the cowboy. "You know what you're buying?" The cowboy looked at Samuel. "A boy." The old bidder shook his head. "You don't know nothing." The cowboy faced him. "I know enough." The heavy man slapped his hands together. 150 going once. Samuel's father could not look up. Going twice. The old bidder walked away. Sold. Samuel jumped. His father rushed forward and grabbed the money. He counted every bill. His hands stopped shaking. Samuel stared at him. "You sold me." His father stuffed the money into his coat. "I sold trouble." Samuel blinked. "What?" "I sold trouble. I'm your son." His father took a step back. "You were." The words hit harder than the rope. The cowboy climbed onto the platform. He pulled out a knife. Samuel flinched. The cowboy cut the rope around his wrists. The knot dropped to the floor. Samuel rubbed his skin. The cowboy pointed toward the horse. "Come on." Samuel stayed where he was. "I ain't moving. You don't belong here. I ain't going. You ain't property anymore." Samuel looked at his father. "Tell him." His father stayed quiet. "Tell him I belong with you." Nothing. Samuel took one step toward him. His father backed away. "Don't, Papa! Don't! Look at me!" His father could not. The sheriff touched the old man's shoulder. Samuel's father nodded. He turned around. Samuel shouted, "Papa!" No answer. "Papa!" The man kept walking. "Papa!" He never looked back. The crowd slowly broke apart. The ranch owner climbed into his wagon. The old family disappeared down the road. The sheriff adjusted his badge and walked away. The heavy man folded the auction table. Soon only Samuel and the cowboy remained. The cowboy picked up the rope from the floor. He tossed it into a fire barrel. It curled and blackened. Samuel watched it burn. "You hungry?" Samuel shook his head. "You cold?" "No." "You got family?" Samuel laughed. "I thought I did." The cowboy did not answer. He picked up Samuel's small sack from the ground. "This yours?" Samuel nodded. The cowboy handed it over. "You carrying it?" Samuel took it. "You ain't taking it. It belongs to you." Samuel looked confused. The cowboy started walking toward his horse. After a few steps, he stopped. "You coming?" Samuel looked down the road where his father had gone. There was nobody there. He looked at the empty platform. He looked at the ashes from the rope. Then he took one slow step. Another. Another. The cowboy waited. Samuel reached him. The cowboy untied the horse. Samuel stood beside him. Neither spoke. The yard behind them was empty now. Samuel held his little sack against his chest. The cowboy rested a hand on the saddle. "Ready?" Samuel looked up at the stranger's face. His voice was small. "Why'd you buy me?" Samuel looked up at the cowboy and held his little sack against his chest. The empty auction yard sat behind them, but he could still hear men laughing. The stranger rested one hand on the saddle and looked back at the road. "Why'd you buy me?" The cowboy took a long breath. "Because nobody bought me." Samuel frowned. "What does that mean?" "It means I know how it feels." "You got sold too?" "No?" "Then you lied." The cowboy nodded once. "Maybe a little." Samuel did not move. "You gonna tell me your name?" The cowboy looked at him. "People call me Jack. Is that your real name?" "It'll do." Samuel looked down the road again. "My papa might come back." Jack waited. "He ain't coming." Samuel wanted to argue. He could not. Jack climbed onto the horse. "You riding?" "I can walk. You'll fall behind. I don't care." Jack reached down. "Get up here." Samuel stood still for another moment before taking the hand. Jack pulled him onto the horse and settled him behind the saddle. "Hold on. I ain't scared. I didn't ask if you were." They started down the road. Neither spoke. The auction yard disappeared behind them. Samuel looked over his shoulder until he could not see it anymore. The road stretched through empty fields and old fences. Broken wagons sat where people had left them. Crows picked at the ground. Samuel finally spoke. "You got a house? No, you got family? No, you got children?" Jack smiled a little. "No, you got anybody?" Jack looked ahead. "Not today." Samuel stopped asking questions. The horse walked for hours. Near the middle of the day, they came to a small bridge. An old woman sat beside it with a basket of roots and dry flowers. She looked at Jack. "You came back." Jack nodded. "Looks that way." Her eyes moved to Samuel. She stood slowly. "Oh, no." Samuel shifted closer to Jack. "What?" The old woman pointed. "Dead things follow that child." Jack pulled on the reins. "Leave him alone. I seen his face. You're seeing too much. He carries sorrow. Lots of folks do." The old woman stepped closer. "He ain't alone." Samuel felt cold. "What do you mean?" She looked right at him. "Something walks behind you." Samuel turned around. The road was empty. "I don't see nothing." "You won't." Jack touched the horse. "We're leaving." The old woman shook her head. "You should." Jack rode away. Samuel looked back. The old woman was still standing on the bridge. She raised one hand. It looked more like a warning than a goodbye. They rode until the sun dropped low. Jack stopped beside a small creek. "We camp here." Samuel climbed down. "You ain't scared of what she said?" Jack took off the saddle. "I've heard worse. You know her?" "A little." "Was she telling the truth?" Jack looked at Samuel. "I don't know." That answer stayed with him. Jack built a small fire. He handed Samuel a blanket. "You sleep. I ain't tired. You will be." Samuel curled against a tree. Jack sat by the fire. The flames cracked. Samuel closed his eyes. He heard the auction again. "Who starts the bidding?" 20, 30, Papa. "You sold me. I sold trouble." Samuel jumped awake with a scream. Jack was beside him. "Easy." Samuel looked around. The fire was almost gone. "They took me again. It was a dream. They tied me up. I know. My papa walked away. I know." Samuel covered his face. Jack sat beside him. Nobody spoke. After a while, Jack reached into his bag and pulled out a piece of bread and dried meat. "Eat." Samuel took the bread. Jack looked away. Samuel slipped half the bread into his little sack. Jack saw it. "You hungry later?" Samuel nodded. Jack shook his head. Samuel froze. "What?" "You don't have to hide food." Samuel held the sack tight. "My mama used to." Jack waited. "My papa drank money away." Jack said nothing. "If we found food, she'd hide some." Samuel looked at the ground, in case tomorrow was bad. Jack broke the dried meat in half. "Tomorrow might be bad." Samuel looked up. "But you still eat today." Samuel slowly took another bite. The next morning they reached an old cabin. The roof leaned to one side. One window was broken. The front door hung open. Samuel stopped. "Somebody lives here?" "Not anymore." Jack walked inside. Samuel followed. Dust covered everything. An old table sat in the middle of the room. A chair had fallen over. Samuel looked around. He spotted something near the fireplace, a small boot. He picked it up. It was the size of his foot. Jack turned. "What?" "This belonged to a kid." Jack looked at the boot. "Looks that way. Where's the kid?" Jack had no answer. Samuel looked closer. Something had been carved into the leather, a mark, a circle, with a line through the middle. "What is this?" Jack took the boot. His face changed. "You seen that before?" Jack put the boot down. "A long time ago." "What's it mean?" "I don't know." Samuel pointed toward the wall. There, too, the same mark had been scratched into the wood. Over and over, Samuel backed away. "I don't like this place." Jack nodded. "We ain't staying." A horse stopped outside. Jack reached for his gun. Boots hit the porch. The sheriff walked through the open door. He smiled. "Morning." Jack lowered his hand. "What do you want?" The sheriff looked at Samuel. "Just checking." "Checking what?" "Heard you bought yourself a boy." Jack stepped between them. "Bought him legal?" Jack nodded. "Paid cash." The sheriff laughed. "Funny world." Samuel stared at the badge on the sheriff's chest. Then his eyes dropped lower. Something hung from the sheriff's belt. A knife. The handle was made from old antler. One side had a deep crack. Samuel knew that crack. His father had dropped that knife-splitting wood years before. Samuel walked closer. The sheriff noticed. "What?" Samuel pointed. "That knife." The sheriff looked down. "What about it?" Samuel's mouth went dry. Jack looked from the knife to the boy. "You know it?" Samuel nodded slowly. His voice barely came out. "That was my papa's." The sheriff's smile stayed where it was. Jack looked at him. "Where'd you get it?" The sheriff rested one hand on the handle. Samuel could not take his eyes off it. His heart started pounding. He looked at Jack and whispered, "How'd he get that?" Samuel kept his finger pointed at the sheriff's belt. His hand shook so hard that he had to grab Jack's sleeve with the other one. "How'd he get that?" The sheriff looked down at the knife and then back at the boy. "You got sharp eyes. That's my papa's." "It ain't." "It is." Jack took one step forward. "Where'd you get it?" The sheriff rested his hand on the handle. "Bought it." Samuel shook his head. He lied. The sheriff laughed. "You calling me a liar, boy? I'm calling you a thief." Jack held out his hand. "Take the knife off." The sheriff smiled too wide. "You giving orders now?" I asked, polite. "And if I say no?" Jack looked at him. "I ask different." The sheriff studied the cowboy for a long moment. Then he stepped back toward the door. I paid good money. Samuel could not stay quiet. My papa carried that every day. The sheriff shrugged. Maybe he sold it, he wouldn't. You sure about that? Samuel stopped talking. The sheriff noticed. I hear your old man sells plenty. Jack's jaw tightened. Get out. The sheriff tipped his hat. You keep your receipt for that, boy. Folks around here ask questions. He walked outside. His horse carried him down the road. Samuel stood frozen. Jack looked at the empty doorway. You sure? Samuel nodded. My mama gave him that knife. You never seen another like it? No. Jack picked up the little boot from the floor. Pack your things. Where are we going? Looking for answers. Samuel looked at the strange mark scratched into the wall. You know what that sign means? Jack slipped the boot into his saddlebag. I know somebody who might. They rode into the nearest town before noon. The streets were quiet. A blacksmith hammered steel. Women swept porches. Children stopped playing when they saw Samuel. Jack tied the horse outside an old store. A bell rang over the door. An old man looked up from behind the counter. Jack, morning. You still alive? So far. The old storekeeper looked at Samuel. Who's the boy? Named Samuel. The old man nodded. You hungry, son? Samuel looked at Jack. Jack nodded. The old man handed him an apple. Samuel held it but did not eat. Jack placed the old boot on the counter. You know this, Mark? The old storekeeper's smile disappeared. Where'd you find that? Old cabin. The old man looked toward the window. You should have left it there. What is it? The old man stayed quiet. Jack leaned closer. What is it? The old man sighed. A long story. I got time. The old man looked at Samuel. Maybe the boy shouldn't hear. Sam spoke up. I'm hearing it. The old man nodded. Years back, children started disappearing. Samuel gripped the apple. How many? Enough. Who took them? Nobody knew. Jack pointed at the mark. And that, they found it near empty houses. Samuel swallowed. Did they find the children? The old man shook his head. No. Jack folded his arms. What'd the sheriff do? The old man laughed without smiling. He protected people. Who? The wrong ones. Samuel looked confused. What people? The old man lowered his voice. Families with money. Jack waited. They loaned money. Samuel thought about his father. If folks couldn't pay? The old man looked away. They paid another way. Jack felt something cold settle in his chest. Children? The old man nodded. Samuel dropped the apple. No. The old man looked at him. I'm sorry. Jack asked another question. Secret auctions? The old man stared. You already know. I know enough. The old man rubbed his face. Some happened in barns. Some happened at ranches. Some happened right in the open. The sheriff? He looked the other way. Samuel could barely breathe. My papa. The old man looked at him. What about him? He sold me. The old man's eyes widened. What was his name? Samuel told him. The old man closed his eyes. I remember. Samuel stepped forward. You know my papa? I sold him flour. What else? The old man looked at Jack. He owed money. Samuel felt sick. To who? The old man whispered one word. The governor. Samuel frowned. Who's that? Jack answered. The richest man around. The old man nodded. He owns land, cattle, banks. Samuel looked down. My papa owed him? The old man nodded. For years. Jack thought about the auction, the sheriff, the knife, the old family bidding, the strange mark. He looked at Samuel. This ain't about whiskey. Samuel blinked. What? This ain't about a drunk making a bad choice. Samuel's voice shook. Then why me? Nobody answered. The old storekeeper looked toward the door. You better ask somebody else. Who? The preacher. Jack frowned. He's still alive? Barely. They left the store. Samuel climbed onto the horse. He did not speak. Jack looked back at the old man. You tell me everything? The old storekeeper shook his head. No. What you leave out? The old man pointed down the road. The preacher knows. They found the old church sitting alone beside a field. The bell had fallen years ago. The front door leaned open. An old preacher swept the floor. He looked up. Jack, you know me? I know everybody who comes carrying ghosts. Jack nodded toward Samuel. This boy needs answers. The preacher looked at Samuel for a long time. I know who you are. Samuel took one step back. You do? The preacher nodded. I buried your mama. Samuel's heart started racing. You knew her? I did. What was she like? Brave. Samuel smiled a little. She used to sing, I remember. Samuel's smile faded. Did she know my papa would sell me? The preacher put down the broom. Your mama knew many things. Samuel stared. What does that mean? The preacher walked to a small wooden chest. He opened it. Inside lay an old folded letter. He picked it up carefully. Jack looked at it. What's that? The preacher held it out. She left this. Samuel could not move. For who? You. Samuel shook his head. No, she asked me to wait. For what? For the day you needed truth. Samuel looked at Jack. Jack nodded. Take it. Samuel reached for the letter. His hands shook. Why didn't she give it to me? The preacher looked sad. Because she was afraid. Of who? The preacher looked toward the empty doorway. People with money. Samuel looked at the paper. My mama wrote this? Samuel looked back up. You read it? The preacher nodded once. Does it say why my papa sold me? The old man's face changed. It says more than that. Samuel felt his stomach twist. What? The preacher stepped away. You have to hear it from her. Jack rested a hand on Samuel's shoulder. You don't have to open it now. Samuel looked at the faded writing. His mother's name was on the front. He had not seen her handwriting since she died. His fingers touched the edge of the paper. His breath caught in his throat. Slowly, carefully, Samuel opened the letter. Samuel opened the letter. The paper shook in his hands. The old preacher stepped back. Jack stayed close but said nothing. Samuel looked at the first line and felt his chest tighten. My mama wrote this. The preacher nodded. Read it. Samuel swallowed and tried. The words blurred together. I can't. Jack held out his hand. You want help? Samuel looked down. Just a little. He gave Jack the letter. Jack unfolded it the rest of the way. The paper was worn thin. He cleared his throat. The first words were simple. Run if they find you. Samuel frowned. What? Jack read them again. Run if they find you. The preacher closed his eyes. Samuel took one step forward. Find me? Jack kept reading. My sweet boy, if you are hearing these words, then I could not keep my promise. I wanted to hide you. I wanted to keep you safe. Samuel looked at the preacher. Safe from what? Jack read on. There are old families who believe some blood belongs to them. They hunt children who carry that blood. Samuel shook his head. That don't make sense. Jack looked at the preacher. The old man stayed quiet. Samuel grabbed Jack's arm. Keep reading. Jack nodded. I was born into one of those families. I ran away. I changed my name. I prayed they would never find me. Samuel felt cold. My mama ran away? The preacher answered. She did. Jack read another line. Your father was a good man once. He promised to protect us. Samuel smiled for a moment. Jack kept going. He hid you because they offered money. Samuel's smile vanished. What? Jack looked at him. You sure? Samuel nodded. Read it. Jack took a breath. He told them you were dead. Every year they paid him to keep you hidden. Samuel could not speak. Jack looked farther down the page. He said he would never hand you over. Samuel whispered. He lied. Jack said nothing. The next words came slowly. I saw the fear grow inside him. I saw the drink take hold. I knew one day fear would beat love. Samuel backed away. No. Jack lowered the letter. You don't have to. Read it. Jack looked at the paper again. If that day comes, do not blame yourself. Your father will betray you because he is weak. Samuel covered his ears. Stop. The preacher looked ready to cry. Samuel shouted. Stop. Jack folded the letter. The church stayed quiet. Samuel looked at the floor. My papa hid me for money. Nobody answered. He kept taking it. Silence. He knew. The preacher spoke softly. He fought it for years. Samuel looked up. You knew, I did. You let me stay with him. I hoped he would change. Samuel laughed. He sold me. Jack watched the boy. Samuel's hands were shaking again. He knew they wanted me. Jack nodded. It sounds that way. Samuel looked at the letter. The preacher answered, Your mother never told me. You read the whole thing. I did. Then tell me. I can't. Why? She crossed that part out. Samuel frowned. Why would she do that? The preacher looked out the window. Maybe some secrets are dangerous. Samuel snatched the letter from Jack. I don't want it. He walked toward the church door. Jack followed. Samuel, I don't want it. It's your mama's words. I don't care. You do. Samuel stopped outside. He looked at the paper. My papa lied. Jack stayed quiet. My mama lied. She hid things. Everybody lies. Samuel pulled a match from a box beside the church door. Jack saw it. What are you doing? Samuel struck the match. I don't want any of it. The flame touched the edge of the letter. The paper caught fast. Jack reached for it. Samuel pulled away. The fire spread. Samuel dropped the letter. It burned on the ground. Jack jumped forward and stomped on the flames. Smoke curled into the air. Half the letter was gone. Jack picked up what was left. Samuel looked away. You should have let it burn. Jack folded the blackened paper. Never burn truth. Samuel laughed bitterly. Truth burns people. Jack tucked the half letter inside his coat. Samuel started walking. Samuel, the boy did not stop. Samuel. He kept going. The preacher called after him. Your mama loved you. Samuel shouted back. She left me. He ran down the road. Jack climbed onto the horse. I'll bring him back. The preacher nodded. Be careful. Samuel ran until his chest hurt. He did not know where he was going. He only knew he wanted to get away. Away from the church, away from the letter, away from his father. The road ended near a field. At the edge of the field stood an old stone well. The rocks were cracked. The wood above it leaned to one side. A rope hung over the opening. Samuel walked toward it. He looked down darkness. He picked up a small stone and dropped it. He waited. Nothing. No sound came back. Samuel frowned. How deep are you? The wind moved across the field. Then he heard it, a woman's voice, soft, broken. He left me too. Samuel froze. Who's there? Nothing. He stepped closer. The voice came again. He left me too. Samuel looked into the dark. The rope creaked. Samuel grabbed the edge of the well. Are you hurt? Silence. My papa left me, the voice answered. I know. Samuel stepped even closer. Who are you? No answer. Are you down there? The rope moved. Samuel reached for it. A hand grabbed his shoulder. Samuel screamed. Jack pulled him back. What are you doing? Samuel pointed. There's somebody down there. Jack looked into the well. I don't see anybody. I heard her. Jack picked up a rock and dropped it. They waited. A splash echoed from far below. Samuel grabbed Jack's coat. She talked to me. What'd she say? He left me too. Jack looked down again. The field was quiet. Samuel would not let go of his sleeve. You believe me? Jack looked at the frightened boy. I believe you heard something. There was a woman. Maybe. She sounded sad. Jack nodded. So do lots of people. Samuel looked back into the darkness. What if she's still down there? Jack put a hand on the old stones. This well's been empty a long time. Samuel shook his head. It ain't empty. Jack looked down one last time. He saw nothing, no face, no shadow, only black water. He stepped back. We're leaving. Samuel did not move. The voice knew. Knew what? My papa left me. Jack had no answer. He reached for Samuel's hand. The boy finally took it. They turned away from the well. Behind them, the old stones stayed still. The dark opening stayed silent. Jack took 3 steps. Samuel took 3. Then they both stopped. A long creaking sound rose behind them. Slowly, without a hand touching it, the old rope above the well began to move by itself. The old rope above the well began to move by itself. Samuel grabbed Jack's arm so hard his fingers hurt. You saw it. Jack kept his eyes on the rope. I saw it. It moved. I know. There ain't no wind. Jack looked around the empty field. No. The rope swung harder, back and forth, back and forth. A soft creaking sound filled the air. Samuel stepped behind Jack. We should go. Jack did not move. I want one more look. You said the well was empty. I might have been wrong. Hooves beat against the road. A rider came fast. The sheriff pulled his horse to a stop. He looked at the well, then at Samuel. Then at Jack. His face changed. "What are you doing here?" Jack answered. "Standing. Leave." Samuel looked at the sheriff. "Why?" The sheriff pointed at the road. "Because I said so." Jack folded his arms. "No." The sheriff climbed down. "This land ain't yours. It ain't yours either." The sheriff walked toward the well. "I'll ask one last time." Jack stayed where he was. "No." The sheriff's hand touched his gun. Samuel backed away. "You gonna shoot us?" The sheriff looked at him. "If I have to." A wagon stopped nearby. A farmer climbed down. "What happened?" Another wagon came. A woman pointed at the well. "The rope's moving." More people arrived. The field slowly filled. The sheriff looked nervous. "Everybody go home." Nobody moved. The old farmer spoke. "What's down there?" "Nothing." The woman looked at the rope. "Then why's it moving?" The sheriff shouted. "I said go home." Jack stepped beside the well. "If there's nothing, let us look." The sheriff shook his head. "No." Samuel looked at Jack. "He don't want us to." Jack nodded. "I know." The old farmer grabbed the rope. "I'm looking." The sheriff rushed forward. "Don't touch that." The farmer pulled anyway. The rope came up. Slowly the crowd leaned closer. Something hit the stones. The farmer stopped. "What was that?" Jack reached for the rope. "Keep pulling." The sheriff grabbed his arm. "Leave it." Jack pushed him away. "Keep pulling." The rope came higher. A bundle broke the water. The woman screamed. The farmer let go. The bundle dropped against the side. Jack caught the rope. He pulled harder. Samuel looked away. Jack dragged the bundle onto the grass. It was wrapped in old cloth. Nobody spoke. Jack opened it. Bones, small bones. Samuel covered his mouth. The woman started crying. "That's a child." The sheriff stepped back. "I don't know nothing about that." Jack looked up. "You sure?" The sheriff had no answer. The old farmer reached into the cloth. He pulled out a tiny shoe. Samuel stared. It was almost the same size as the boot from the cabin. The farmer found something else, a rusted badge. "What is this?" The sheriff looked ready to run. Jack picked up the badge, a deputy's badge. The crowd started talking. "There could be more." Jack nodded. "There could." The sheriff shouted, "Stop!" Nobody listened. The farmer dropped the rope back into the well. Another man grabbed hold. Woman joined him. More rope came up. Another bundle, another small shoe, another rusted badge. Samuel felt sick. He looked into the darkness. The whispers started, soft, broken, almost too quiet to hear. "Find us." Samuel turned around. "Jack." Jack looked at him. "What?" "I hear them." "What do they say?" Samuel looked at the well. "Find us." Jack stayed quiet. The whispers came again. "Find us." Samuel took one step forward. "There are more." Jack grabbed his shoulder. "Stay back. They're asking for help." The sheriff looked at Samuel. "What did you say?" Samuel pointed. "They're down there." The sheriff's face turned white. "No, they're talking. No!" The old woman from the bridge walked through the crowd. People moved out of her way. She looked at the well. "I told you." Jack nodded. "You did." She pointed at the stones. "This well belongs to an old family." Samuel looked at her. "What family?" She shook her head. "The kind that buries truth." Jack stepped closer. "The same family from the boot?" She nodded. "The same mark." Samuel looked at the sheriff. "He knows." The old woman looked at him too. "He always knew." The sheriff shouted, "That's enough." She ignored him. "The governor paid for this land." Jack frowned. "The governor? He owned the well." The crowd gasped. The old woman kept talking. Children vanished. Debs vanished. Questions vanished. Samuel felt the whispers again. "Find us." Jack looked at the sheriff. "You worked for him." The sheriff shook his head. "I kept peace. You kept secrets. I had orders." The old woman laughed. "You had silver." The sheriff reached for his gun. "Everybody quiet. Nobody moved. I'll lock every one of you up." The old farmer stepped forward. "For finding bones?" The sheriff pointed the gun. "For spreading lies." The woman who found the shoe stood beside the farmer. "You'll have to lock us all." Others joined her. The sheriff looked around. Too many faces. Too many eyes. Jack stepped between the crowd and the gun. Not anymore. The sheriff looked at him. Jack shook his head. No. You think you can stop me? No. The sheriff frowned. What then? I think they're done being scared. Samuel looked down near the well. Something silver caught the light. He bent over, his eyes closed around it. A small silver badge. He brushed away dirt. The front held a star. The back held a name. Samuel walked to Jack. I found this. Jack looked at it. His hand started shaking. Samuel frowned. What? Jack stared at the name. No. Samuel looked closer. You know it. Jack could barely speak. It can't be. What? Jack rubbed the dirt away. The name became clear. His eyes filled with tears. My brother. Samuel blinked. What? My little brother. The crowd went silent. He wore this. Samuel looked at the badge. He was a deputy? Jack nodded. A junior helper. What happened to him? Jack looked at the well. He disappeared how long ago? 20 years. Samuel felt cold. You looked for him? Every day. The old woman stepped closer. I remember that boy. You knew? She nodded. He vanished after asking too many questions. Jack closed his hand around the badge. My mama waited for him every night. Nobody spoke. My pa died looking. Samuel looked at the bones. You think he's down there? Jack looked into the darkness. I think my family suffered the same as yours. The sheriff slowly backed toward his horse. Jack looked up. Don't. The sheriff climbed into the saddle. You got no proof. Jack held up the silver badge. I got enough. The sheriff pulled the reins. You tell anybody, you'll wish you hadn't. The old woman laughed. We already do. The sheriff kicked his horse. Samuel pointed. He's running. Jack slipped the badge into his pocket. His eyes stayed on the sheriff. The horse raced across the field. Dust rose behind it. The sheriff never looked back. Samuel watched him disappear and whispered, He's scared. Samuel watched the sheriff disappear into the cloud of dust. His fingers stayed pointed at the road long after the horse was gone. Jack slipped the silver badge into his pocket and climbed onto the saddle. We're going after him. Samuel nodded. I want answers, so do I. The old woman grabbed Jack's arm. You won't catch him. Jack looked at her. I'll try. He ain't riding home. Samuel frowned. Then where? She looked toward the hills. Fear always runs to fear. Jack understood. The drunk. The old woman nodded. He'll hide with the man who started this. Samuel's heart began to race. My papa. Jack reached down. Come on. Samuel climbed onto the horse. They followed the sheriff's tracks across empty fields and broken fences. The trail turned away from town and toward an old shack sitting alone beside dead trees. Jack slowed the horse. You stay close. Samuel looked at the shack. A broken bottle lay outside. A chair sat upside down in the dirt. The front door was open. Samuel knew the place. My papa stayed here. Jack climbed down. The sheriff's horse was nowhere to be seen. Samuel stepped onto the porch. Papa. No answer. He pushed the door open. A man sat in the corner. His clothes were dirty. His beard had grown long. An empty bottle rested by his boot. Samuel stopped moving. His father looked up. The bottle slipped from his hand. Samuel. Neither moved. Jack stood in the doorway. Samuel stared at the man who had walked away from the auction. His father's hand started shaking. You're alive. Samuel laughed. You sound surprised. His father stood. I thought. You thought what? His father had no answer. Samuel took one step forward. His voice was small. Why? His father closed his eyes. Don't. Why? I can't. Why? Tears rolled down the old man's face. I already lost one son. Samuel blinked. What? His father sat back down. I already lost one son. Jack looked at Samuel. Samuel looked at his father. I don't got a brother. His father nodded slowly. You did. Samuel felt his legs weaken. What are you saying? His father covered his face. There was another boy. Samuel shook his head. No, he was older. No, he carried you when you cried. Samuel looked lost. I don't remember. You were too little. Jack folded his arms. What happened to him? The old man looked at the floor. I sold him. The room stayed silent. Samuel could barely breathe. What? His father's voice broke. I sold him. Samuel stepped back. You lying? I wish I was. Jack moved toward the old man. To who? The governor. Samuel looked at Jack. The governor took my brother? His father nodded. The sheriff brought him. Jack's eyes darkened. The sheriff delivered children, his father whispered. Yes! Samuel stared. My brother cried. His father shut his eyes. He called for his mama. Samuel looked ready to fall. And you let him go? His father cried harder. I was scared, Samuel shouted. You let him go. I had debts. You let him go. They said they'd kill us. You let him go. His father hit the table with his fist. I know. Jack grabbed the old man's shirt. You watched them take children. His father looked at him. I wasn't the only one. Jack pulled him closer. You took money. I know. You sold your sons. I know. Jack's hand closed into a fist. Samuel looked at the empty bottles. You drank after. His father nodded. I couldn't sleep. Samuel's voice shook. You chose the bottle. His father looked at his son. I chose fear. Samuel stood still. I waited for you. I know I thought you'd come back. I know I thought you loved me. His father's tears would not stop. I did. Samuel shook his head. No, I did. You don't sell people you love. His father could not answer. Jack pushed the old man against the wall. You got children buried in that well. I never killed nobody. You helped. I know. Jack lifted his fist. Samuel looked up. Jack. The cowboy did not hear him. You let my brother disappear. I didn't know your brother. You knew somebody's brother. Jack pulled back his arm. Samuel ran forward. No. Jack froze. Move. No. He deserves it. No. Jack looked down at Samuel. He sold you. I know. He sold another boy. I know. He helped monsters. Samuel nodded. I know. Then move. Samuel looked at his father. If you hit him, I never get answers. Jack slowly lowered his hand. The old man sank into the chair. Samuel sat across from him. Where's my brother? His father shook his head. I don't know. The governor? I think you think? I never saw him again. Samuel looked at Jack. The silver badge. Jack touched his pocket. My brother. Samuel looked back at his father. How many? The old man whispered. I don't know. You know. I stopped counting. Samuel felt sick. His father pointed toward the window. The governor owns a ranch. Jack listened. Where? North Road. Samuel waited. Past the Black Hills. Jack nodded. What about it? His father looked terrified. They take children there, Samuel whispered. And after? His father pointed toward the ground. Hidden graves. Jack's face changed. You seen them? His father nodded. I dug some. Samuel covered his mouth. His father looked at him. I wanted to tell. You didn't? They would have killed me. Samuel stood. They killed children. His father looked away. I know. Samuel walked toward the door. Samuel. The boy stopped. I'm sorry. Samuel kept his back turned. I loved your mama. Samuel said nothing. I loved you. Samuel looked over his shoulder. My mama hid me, his father cried. I know. My brother carried me. I know. You sold him. The old man closed his eyes. I know. You sold me. I know. Samuel opened the door. His father reached out. Please. Samuel looked at the broken man sitting alone among empty bottles. He did not see his father anymore. He saw fear. He saw lies. He saw the man who had traded 2 sons for 1 more day of safety. His father whispered, Don't leave me. Samuel stepped outside. The sun was falling. Jack came beside him. You all right? Samuel looked at the road leading toward the governor's land. No. Jack nodded. What now? Samuel looked back at the shack one last time. His father was crying inside. The sound followed him into the yard. Samuel turned away from it. He looked toward the distant hills and said, Take me to the ranch. Samuel looked toward the distant hills and said, Take me to the ranch. Jack climbed onto the horse. You sure? Samuel nodded. I ain't running anymore. They started down the road behind them. Samuel's father stood in the doorway of the shack. Samuel. The boy did not turn around. Samuel. Jack looked back once. The old man had fallen to his knees. Samuel kept his eyes ahead. The old woman from the well waited by the road. "I knew you'd go." Jack stopped the horse. "You coming?" She nodded. "Somebody has to remember." The old farmer joined them. "So do I." A widow climbed into her wagon. "My daughter vanished." Another man stepped forward. "My nephew, too." Samuel looked at the small group. "They're coming?" Jack nodded. "They've been waiting." The road climbed into the hills. Nobody spoke. The old woman pointed ahead. There, Samuel saw fences, big barns, long fields. A large house stood in the distance. "The governor lives there?" Jack nodded. "He owns more than that." The old woman looked away. "He owns fear." Samuel saw something strange near a line of trees, small wooden posts, one after another. "What are those?" Jack pulled the horse to a stop. Nobody answered. Samuel climbed down. He walked toward the posts. The first one had no name, the second was broken, the third was small. Too small, Samuel touched it. "This is a grave." The widow covered her mouth. "There are more." Samuel counted 1, 5, 10, 20. Jack walked farther. His face grew darker. "Keep looking." The old farmer knelt beside another marker. "This one's empty." Samuel frowned. "What?" The farmer pushed dirt aside. "There ain't nobody here." Jack checked another. "Empty." The widow found one. "Empty too." Samuel looked around. "Where are they?" The old woman whispered. "They moved them." Samuel's heart pounded. "Why?" She looked toward the ranch house. "To hide the count." Jack walked between the graves. Small markers stretched across the field. Some had toys. Some had little shoes. One had a tiny wooden horse. Samuel picked it up. His hand shook. They were kids. Jack nodded. "I know." A shout came from the ranch. Men on horses, 5 of them. One pointed. "Get away from there." Jack stood. "We're staying." The riders charged. Jack pulled his gun. The old farmer grabbed a shovel. The widow picked up a rake. Samuel backed toward the trees. Jack shouted, "Hide." Samuel ran. He ducked behind an old shed. The fighting started. A gun fired. A horse screamed. Men shouted. Samuel covered his ears. He looked around for a place to hide. The shed door hung open. He slipped inside. Dust covered the floor. Old boxes sat against the wall. Samuel heard Jack yelling outside. He pushed a box aside. A trapdoor. Samuel pulled it open. Stairs led down. He climbed into the dark. The room below was cold. Shelves lined the walls. Papers covered a table. Samuel picked one up. Names. A long list of names. Beside each one was a number, a date, a payment. Samuel looked closer. Children. Every page held children. His hands shook. He turned another page. More names. Another. He stopped. His own family name. Samuel stared. One line read his older brother's name. Sold, payment received. Samuel almost dropped the paper. "My brother." He looked farther down. His own name. Hidden pain continued. Samuel remembered his mother's letter. His father had taken money. Every year, Samuel felt sick. He grabbed the papers and ran upstairs. Outside, Jack knocked one of the guards from his horse. The widow hit another with a rake. The old farmer stood over a man holding the shovel. Samuel shouted, "Jack!" Jack turned. "I found something." Samuel handed him the papers. Jack looked at the names. His eyes moved slowly. Then he stopped. "No." Samuel looked at him. "What?" Jack touched one line. "My brother." Samuel looked down. The same silver badge name listed, taken commit made. Jack's hands shook. "He was here." The old woman nodded. "I told you." Jack looked at the papers. They knew. Samuel touched another page. "My brother." Jack looked at him. They took both. A horse crashed through the fence. The sheriff rode into the field. He stopped when he saw the papers. His face turned white. Jack pointed his gun. "Get down." The sheriff climbed off the horse slowly. Jack walked. "You knew." The sheriff looked away. "I had a job." Jack grabbed his shirt. "You delivered children." "I obeyed orders." Jack's jaw tightened. "So did Hangman." The sheriff looked at Samuel. "I didn't hurt nobody." Samuel stepped closer. "You took them." "I had to." "You took my brother." "I had to." "You took Jack's brother." "I had to." The sheriff started crying. "The governor made us." Jack pushed him to the ground. "Where is he?" The sheriff pointed toward the house. "He left." "When?" "Minutes ago." Jack looked at the road. A rider raced across the hills. The governor. Jack started after him. Samuel grabbed his arm. Samuel pointed at the sheriff. "So will he." Jack looked down, his hand reached for his gun. The sheriff saw it. "Please." Jack pulled the hammer back. "You don't deserve a trial." The sheriff closed his eyes. Samuel stepped between them. "No." Jack looked at him. "He took children." "I know." "He took our brothers." "I know. He buried lives." Samuel nodded. "I know. Then move." Samuel shook his head. My papa got to talk." Jack stayed quiet. "The sheriff talks too. He deserves dirt." "He deserves truth." Jack looked at the graves. Samuel Biddett pointed at the crowd. "They need to hear him." The widow nodded. "So do I." The old farmer stepped forward. "So do we." Jack lowered the gun. The sheriff cried harder. Samuel looked toward the ranch house. Smoke drifted from one barn, then another. The old woman smiled. "He planned this." Jack frowned. "What?" "He burns what he leaves behind." Flames climbed higher. The barn roof caught fire. The house windows glowed red. Samuel looked toward the road. The governor was gone. Jack tied the sheriff's hands. "We ain't done." Samuel looked at the burning buildings. Neither were the flames. Fire spread across the ranch. The barns burned, the fences burned, the secrets burned. Samuel held the papers against his chest and watched the governor's home disappear into smoke, while somewhere beyond the hills the man who started it all rode toward the darkness. "Knock!" Samuel held the papers against his chest and watched the governor's home disappear into smoke, while somewhere beyond the hills the man who started it all rode toward the darkness. Jack grabbed the horse. "We're going." The sheriff looked at the burning ranch. "He'll head east." Jack glared at him. "You don't get to help." The sheriff lowered his head. "I know where he hides." Samuel climbed onto the horse. "Then talk." The sheriff pointed toward a narrow trail. "Old church by the cliffs." Jack frowned. "Why there?" The sheriff looked sick. "There's more than a church." Samuel remembered the well, the voices, the graves. "What else?" The sheriff would not answer. Jack tied the sheriff's hands to the saddle. "You ride in front. If I run?" Jack looked at him. "You won't get far." They left the burning ranch behind. Smoke filled the sky. Samuel looked back one last time. His brother's name sat inside the papers against his chest. Jack rode beside him. "You all right?" Samuel shook his head. "No, you want to stop?" "No." "You scared?" Samuel looked ahead. "Not like before." Jack smiled a little. "Good." The sheriff looked over his shoulder. "I never wanted this," Samuel answered. "My brother didn't either." The sheriff stayed quiet. They followed the trail through empty hills. Broken wagons lined the road. Old fences leaned into the dirt. Samuel looked down. Fresh tracks. "He came this way." Jack nodded. "You learning?" Samuel climbed down from the horse. The dirt held deep marks. He was riding fast. The sheriff looked surprised. "That's right." Samuel pointed ahead. His horse got tired. Jack smiled. "How do you know?" "The steps changed." The sheriff stared at the boy. "You track like your mama." "You knew her too?" The sheriff nodded. "Everybody knew her? Did you help her?" The sheriff looked away. "No." "Did you help the governor?" The sheriff whispered. "Yes." Samuel climbed back onto the horse. The sheriff spoke again. "I'm sorry." Samuel shook his head. "I don't forgive you." The sheriff nodded. "I know." The old church appeared before sunset. Its bell tower had fallen years ago. The front doors hung open. A black horse stood outside. Samuel pointed. "His?" Jack climbed down. "Stay close." The sheriff looked at the church. "He'll be armed." Jack handed Samuel a small knife. "You stay behind me." Samuel looked at it. "This was my papa's." Jack nodded. "I took it from the sheriff." Samuel held the old antler handle. "It belongs with you." They walked inside. The church was empty. Broken benches covered the floor. The governor stood near the altar. He smiled. "I wondered when you'd come." Jack pointed his gun. "Don't move." The governor looked at Samuel. "So you're the boy." Samuel stepped forward. "You know me? I paid for you." Samuel gripped the knife. "You don't own me." The governor laughed. "I owned half this valley." Jack moved closer. "You owned graves." The governor shrugged. "I owned debts." Samuel looked around. "No guards. They left. They're scared. They're smart." Samuel looked at the old man. He was dressed well. His boots were clean. His hands looked soft. "You sold children." The governor looked almost confused. People needed money. Samuel stared at him. "You sold children. I saved families," Jack shouted. "You destroyed them." The governor shook his head. "You don't understand." Samuel took another step. "My brother cried." The governor looked at him. "I don't remember him." Jack raised his gun. "I remember mine." The governor pointed at Samuel. "Your father took the money." Samuel's heart hurt. "I know. The sheriff delivered children. I know. The town stayed alive because of me." Samuel's hand tightened around the knife. "You sold children." The governor smiled and bought time. Jack rushed forward. The governor pulled a pistol. A shot filled the church. Jack ducked. Samuel dropped to the floor. The sheriff jumped between them. Another shot. The sheriff stumbled. The governor backed toward the altar. Jack grabbed a bench and threw it. Wood exploded across the room. Samuel ran to the governor. The old man kicked him away. The sheriff grabbed the governor's leg. "Run." The governor kicked him. The sheriff held on. "Run." Jack reached Samuel. "You hurt?" Samuel nodded. The sheriff looked at them. "Go." Jack frowned. "Why?" The sheriff coughed. "I did bad things." Blood covered his shirt. "I know. I can't fix them." Samuel looked at the man. "No. But maybe I can stop one." The governor hit the sheriff with the pistol. The sheriff still held on. Jack looked at Samuel. "We move." They ran toward the altar. The governor suddenly pulled free. He shoved a heavy table aside. A hole opened in the floor. Samuel stared. A tunnel. The governor laughed. "You should have stayed children." He jumped into the darkness. Jack reached the hole. The sheriff grabbed his boot. "Careful." Jack looked down. "What? There are rooms." Samuel stepped closer. "What rooms?" The sheriff looked afraid. "Under the church." Jack looked into the darkness. "We go." The sheriff nodded. "I'll hold the door." Samuel looked at him. "Why?" The sheriff smiled a little. "Because somebody should." Jack climbed down first. Samuel followed. The tunnel smelled wet. Old lanterns hung from the walls. Samuel heard something. A whisper. Soft, broken. He stopped. "Jack, what?" "I hear them." The whispers came again. Samuel walked toward the sound. "Help!" Jack followed. The tunnel opened into a stone room. Empty cages lined the walls. Small blankets lay on the ground. Samuel looked around. "Children." Jack nodded. The whispers came again. "This way." Samuel walked to another door. It was locked. He pushed nothing. Jack kicked it. The wood broke. A small room waited beyond. Someone sat against the wall. Then, dirty head down, Samuel stepped closer. "Hello." The man looked up. His eyes were empty. His hair had turned gray before its time. Chains hung from one ankle. Samuel felt his breath stop. The face looked familiar, the old family picture in the shack. His father's eyes. His mother's smile. Samuel dropped the knife. "My brother." The man blinked slowly. He looked at Samuel. His lips trembled. "You got her eyes." Samuel knelt beside him. "It's me." The man reached out with a shaking hand. "You lived." Samuel nodded through tears. "I came for you." His brother looked toward the dark tunnel where footsteps echoed below. His voice was barely a whisper. "Don't let him leave." Samuel knelt beside his brother. The man's hand shook against his face. Footsteps echoed through the tunnel, growing farther away. His brother whispered, "Don't let him leave." Samuel nodded. "I won't." Jack bent down and broke the chain from the man's ankle. "Can you stand?" His brother tried. His legs failed. Jack caught him. "We'll carry you." The sheriff's voice came from above. "Hurry." A gunshot cracked through the church. Then another. Samuel looked at Jack. "The governor." Jack lifted Samuel's brother onto his shoulder. "We move." They climbed out of the tunnel. The sheriff sat against a broken bench. Blood covered his shirt. He got away. Jack looked outside. Fresh horse tracks cut through the dirt. Samuel's brother grabbed his arm. "He'll go back." "Back where?" "The auction." Samuel froze. "What?" His brother looked at him. "He always goes back." Jack frowned. "Why?" "He thinks people obey money." Samuel stood. "He'll sell somebody else." His brother closed his eyes. "He always does." The sheriff pointed toward the road. "Go." Jack looked down. "You ain't coming." The sheriff smiled a little. "I've done enough." Samuel stared at him. "You helped him?" "I know." "You took children." "I know. You deserve prison." The sheriff nodded. "I do." Samuel looked at Jack. "We're going." They left the church. Samuel rode beside Jack while his brother rested in the wagon the old farmer had brought from the ranch. The widow held his brother's hand. "You ain't alone." The old woman looked ahead. "He'll have people waiting." Samuel touched the papers inside his coat. "So do we." The auction yard appeared before sunset. Samuel stopped breathing. The same platform stood in the middle, the same fences, the same tables. The place where his father had sold him. People crowded the yard. Rich families. Farmers, strangers. Gubbards stood beside the platform. The governor stood in the middle. His coat was clean. His smile had returned. Jack looked at Samuel. "You ready?" Samuel climbed down. "No." Jack nodded. "Good." Samuel walked through the crowd. People moved aside. They knew his face. The governor laughed. The boy returned. Samuel climbed onto the platform, but he stopped him. The governor looked around. "You all remember this child?" Nobody answered. "He caused trouble." Silence. "He brought lies." The crowd stayed quiet. The governor smiled wider. "Who'll buy him?" Samuel looked across the faces. Nobody moved. The governor laughed. "Cheap today." Nobody answered. Samuel looked toward Jack. The cowboy stepped out of the crowd. "I already did." The governor frowned. "What?" Jack walked to the platform. The governor laughed. "You bought a debt." Jack shook his head. "I bought a life." Samuel looked at the crowd. "My brother's alive," people whispered. "My father's a coward." Silence. The sheriff helped steal children. More whispers. "The governor paid for it." The governor folded his arms. "Prove it." Samuel pulled the papers from his coat. "I can." He held them high. Names covered every page. Paysements, dates, families. The old farmer climbed onto the platform. "My nephew's here." The widow stepped beside him. "My daughter, too." Samuel's brother climbed from the wagon. His legs shook. The crowd gasped. One woman screamed. "My son." A young man stepped forward. His hands trembled. His name was on the papers. Another woman cried.
"My little girl."
A thin woman walked from the back of the crowd. A scar crossed her face. She looked at Samuel's brother. "My brother." Families pushed forward. Children, once thought dead, stood together. Some old, some broken, some barely able to stand. The governor looked around. "You believe this?" Nobody answered. "They owe me." The old woman from the bridge stepped forward. "No, they borrowed." "No, they signed papers." The old woman shook her head. "They buried children." The governor backed toward the horse tied nearby. Jack saw it. "He runs." Samuel stepped forward. The governor pointed at him. "Your father sold you." Samuel nodded. "I know. He took my money. I know. He chose me. I know." The governor smiled. "Then blame him." A voice shouted from the edge of the crowd. "I do." Samuel turned. His father stood there. He looked weaker. His hands shook. The bottle was gone. Samuel stared. "What are you doing here?" His father looked at him. "Trying," the governor laughed. "You come for more money." Samuel's father walked toward the platform. "You ruined me." The governor smiled. "You ruined yourself." Samuel's father climbed onto the platform. "You took my boys. I paid. You lied. You agreed." Samuel's father looked at Samuel. "I'm sorry." The governor reached for his pistol. Samuel's father saw it. He threw himself forward. The governor crashed to the ground. The pistol slid across the wood. Samuel's father held him down. "Run!" The governor fought back. Samuel's father shouted at the crowd. "Take me instead." The yard fell silent. The governor laughed under him. "You think they'll forgive you?" Samuel's father looked at his son. "No." "Then why?" His father held tighter. "Because somebody should pay." Jack picked up the pistol. The governor stopped laughing. Samuel looked at the old man on the ground. He thought about the well, the graves, his brother, the auction, his mother. Jack raised the pistol. Samuel looked at him. "No," Jack frowned. "He deserves it. I know. My brother. I know. Your brother. I know." Samuel looked at the crowd. "If we kill him, he wins." The old woman nodded. "He hides truth again." Samuel pointed at the governor. "Make him answer." The widow stepped forward. "So my daughter hears." The old farmer nodded. "So my nephew hears." More people stepped forward. "So my son hears." "So my sister hears." "So we all hear." The governor looked afraid for the first time. The crowd closed around him. Guards dropped their weapons. The old farmer tied the governor's hands. The widow took his horse. Jack lowered the pistol. Samuel's father slowly stood. Blood spread across his side. Samuel saw the knife wound. "When?" His father smiled a little. "When I tackled him." His legs gave out. Samuel caught him. His father looked at the crowd taking the governor away. "They got him." Samuel nodded. "They got him." His father reached up with a shaking hand. "I ain't asking for much." Samuel stayed quiet. His father looked into his eyes. His voice almost disappeared. "Can you forgive me?" Samuel held his father before the crowd. Blood soaked through the old man's shirt. The governor was dragged away, shouting promises and threats, but Samuel barely heard him. His father looked up. "Can you forgive me?" Samuel opened his mouth. Nothing came out. His father waited. Samuel looked at the man who had hidden him, the man who had sold him, the man who had lost one son and almost lost another. "I don't know." His father nodded. "Fair." The old farmer and the widow pulled the governor toward town. The old woman from the bridge watched him go. "It's over." Jack shook his head. "No." The old woman looked at Samuel. "It never ends, it just changes." The governor looked back one last time. "You need me." Nobody answered. The widow stepped forward. "No," the governor laughed. "The old families will come back." The old farmers smiled. "They'll answer questions first." The crowd led the governor away. The rich men who had stood beside him slipped away into the fields. Some were caught, some ran, some begged. The sheriff's friends pulled off their badges. The old families locked their gates. Their power cracked. Samuel did not watch. He looked at his father. "We need help." Jack picked the old man up. "We'll get it." The church became a place for healing instead of hiding. The children who had survived stayed together. Families searched the records. Names were called, mothers cried, brothers hugged, sisters found sisters. Samuel's older brother sat by the window. The widow brought him soup. "You eat." He nodded. The old farmer handed him a blanket. "You rest." His brother looked at Samuel. "I forgot what kindness felt like." Samuel smiled a little. "You'll remember." Days passed. The papers from the ranch spread across the valley. High deals came to light. People learned who had paid, who had stolen, who had stayed quiet. The empty graves were opened. The bones from the well were carried home. Small markers were placed. Little shoes sat beside them. Wooden toys rested in the grass. Samuel helped dig. Jack worked beside him. "What? Which?" The widow prayed. Samuel looked at one tiny grave. "What was his name?" The old woman answered. "Jacob another. Her? Mary another. Him? Thomas." Samuel nodded. "They got names now." Jack looked at him. They should have had them all along. One morning, Samuel walked away from the church. Jack saw him. "Where are you going?" "The well. You want company?" Samuel shook his head. "I think I should go alone." Jack nodded. "I'll wait." Samuel reached the old well before noon. The rope still hung above the dark opening. The stones looked older now. He stepped closer. "Hello?" Nothing answered. He waited. No whispers, no crying, no woman's voice. "He left me too." Silence. Samuel smiled through tears. You can rest. The rope stayed still. Samuel looked down. I found them. Only water answered. I heard you. The well stayed quiet. Samuel touched the old stones. Thank you. He turned and walked away. Jack waited with the horse. You hear anything? Samuel shook his head. No. Jack smiled. Good. Samuel looked back one last time. The rope never moved. His older brother grew stronger. He walked without help. He laughed sometimes. He cried often. One evening he sat beside Samuel. I don't remember everything. You don't have to. I remember carrying you. Samuel smiled. I know I dropped you once. Samuel laughed. My head still hard. His brother laughed too. It was the first time Samuel had heard that sound. His father did not get stronger. He stayed in a small room at the church. The wound turned bad. The preacher sat beside him. Jack stood by the door. Samuel walked in. His father looked up. You came. Samuel nodded. His father looked smaller than before. I've been thinking. Samuel sat down. So have I. His father looked out the window. I should have fought. Samuel looked at him. You should have. His father nodded. I should have taken you and your brother and run. You should have. I should have listened to your mama. You should have, his father cried. I was weak. Samuel did not answer. I loved you boys. Samuel looked at the floor. I know. His father reached for his hand. Samuel let him. I don't want you carrying me around. Samuel looked up. I won't. I don't deserve it. Samuel nodded. I know. His father smiled a little. Samuel laughed softly. So I've heard. His father's eyes closed. Tell your brother. I will. Tell him I was sorry. I will. His father took one slow breath, then another. Then no more. Samuel sat beside him. Jack stayed by the door. Neither spoke. The preacher closed the old man's eyes. Samuel stood. Let's take him home. They buried Samuel's father beside his mother. The old woman came. The widow came. The old farmer came. Samuel's brother stood beside him. Jack dug the last part of the grave. Samuel placed the old bottle beside the coffin. His brother looked at him. Why? So it can't follow him. The preacher nodded. The dirt covered the grave. Samuel looked at the two stones, his mother, his father. One had hidden him, one had failed him. Both were gone. The days grew quieter. The governors stayed locked away. The old families lost land. The auctions ended. The badges changed hands. People started over. Samuel stood outside the church one morning. Jack walked over. Got anywhere to go? Samuel looked at the road. Maybe. Jack smiled. I got a horse. Samuel laughed. You buying me again? Jack smiled back. No. Samuel nodded. Good. Jack held the reins. You riding with me? Samuel looked toward the church. His brother stood in the doorway. You go, his brother said. I'll catch up. Samuel looked toward the graves. The old woman waved. The widow smiled. The old farmer tipped his hat. Samuel looked at Jack. I think I'm ready. Jack helped him onto the horse. They started down the road. The old church faded behind them. The field stretched ahead. Soon they reached the auction yard. The platform still stood. The tables were gone. The crowd was gone. The laughter was gone. Samuel climbed down. Jack waited. Samuel reached into his pocket. The silver badge. Jack looked at it. My brothers. Samuel nodded. He found his way home. Samuel looked toward the old well not far from the road. He walked to it. The rope hung still. The water below was dark. Samuel held the badge over the opening, for the ones who never came back. He let go. The silver stood disappeared into the darkness. No whisper came back. No hand reached up. No rope moved. Samuel turned around. Jack waited beside the horse. You ready? Samuel climbed up behind him. Jack touched the reins. The horse started forward. They rode past the empty auction yard, past the old fields, past the broken fences. Samuel looked ahead instead of behind. Jack smiled. So what now? Samuel looked at the open road and answered, Nobody belongs to anybody again.